One thing I have learned as a beginner, just starting out into the world of sourdough, is that I should have started by testing what hydration level my grain does the best with. I just kind of dove right in. This is my bread taster. I dove right in and I thought it wasn't important based off of my previous baking experience. And what I didn't realize was now that I'm milling the grain myself, hydration is actually a key component to success with your recipe. So I already tested my hard red and I'm working on a loaf right now. And now I'm going to work on testing my hard white. This one is not certified organic. I highly recommend going with something that's organic, but the only reason why I have this one is because it is non-GMO and they don't use chemicals, they don't use pesticides in the treating of this grain. So it's basically like organic, but it's just not certified. Just make sure you are choosing organic, because that is really important, or a farm that uses organic practices, even if they aren't certified. Okay, so the way I have done this is I have 3 little containers, and I'm going to use 50 grams of flour in each container, and then I just adjust. The only thing I'll be adjusting is different levels. Sorry, he's doing reading. I'll do different levels of water in each container, and that will adjust my hydration. So if you want to start at a 90%, just take 50 grams of flour times 90%, so 50 times 0.90, and that will give you how much water to add. So I'll do a 90%, an 85%, and an 80% hydration. So each of those I'll do 50 times 90%, 50 times 85%, and then 50 times 80%, and that's how much water I'll add in to get all 3 hydrations. And then I let it sit for an hour, and then I'll come back in, and then I'll test the dough to see its strength at an hour. So I have about 150 grams measured out here, a little bit over just because I don't like to have to re-mill if I didn't get exactly the grams I want. So this is 153 grams of wheat berries. I have the Mock Mill 200, and I've been working on adjusting it to get to a really fine grind. So once you have your setting, you don't want to tweak too much from there, because how fine you mill your flour will also affect hydration. Yes. Dig, yeah, good job. So it'll affect hydration. So once you have a setting and you're tweaking, make sure that you mill on that setting in the future. That way your hydration that you've taken the effort to calculate is consistent from loaf to loaf. Okay, so I will turn this on. With the Mock Mill 200, you can adjust the stones to get the coarse setting dialed in. I wanted a really fine grind to help with hydration. So I adjusted down the stones, and you can hear that slight ticking sound of the stones. So that's kind of what your goal is on the one setting with the Mock Mill 200. So once you hear that, you can kind of hear it in my videos once the grain's clear. So pay attention, and you can kind of see what your goal is for your settings. The amount of water your flour can absorb is directly related to the setting you're grinding on. So once you do your hydration test, pay attention to the setting you used. Okay, so now I have my flour milled. So I will start out by tearing the bowl. Then I'm going to add the 50 grams of flour. You want this to be pretty spot on so that your test is accurate.
It's the cup game where you pick a glass, put the ball in, shake them around.
Okay, what's your next word?
Jam.
Can you see? Jan, yeah. Like someone's name, Jan.
Yeah, or janitor.
Or it could be short for January.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm getting this one to 50.
Dad.
I don't know why this one weighs more. Okay. Okay, so now they're all on, yep. I homeschool, so that's what we're doing right now. Okay, so actually you have to pay attention because sometimes I take it out and then it drops down a number. My scale just takes a second to settle. Okay, so you can see I just milled a little bit over, so there's a little bit extras. Now, when I'm done with this test, I'll actually just use these to feed my starter, so it's not a loss. Okay, so I have my calculations already done. So now I'm gonna weigh out my water. I'm not gonna do the water straight into these containers because a lot of times I'm off just a smidge and I wanna take a little bit out. So I'm gonna use this container, tare it. So I have my calculations here. The 90% is gonna be 45 grams of water. Okay, so that was 47. Let me grab a spoon. And there's a smidge that made it on my scale. So I'm looking for 45. So I'll just back off a little bit. Like I said, you just want to be really accurate for this one because this is going to tell you how to calculate your recipes. So it is brand specific, so if you are using a different brand, but it's a hard white and it was grown in a different season, your calculations might be different than mine. So you really need to do, once you know what brand you'll be using, you need to do your calculations on your own, unless you want to fail at bread making for a week, which is what I did before I got to this spot. Yep. Okay, so this is my 90%. So keep track. That's my 90. Okay, now I'm gonna do my 85%, which is 42.5 grams. So my scale doesn't measure 42 point.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go for 42. That's close.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm at 42, so this is my 85%. Okay, here. And the last one is my 80%, which is 40 grams of water. Ooh, right on 40. How often does that happen? Okay, so that goes into that one. Wet, that's wet. So put it in the review pile. Okay, so now that I have all that done, I'm going to use this spoon. You can use your hands if you want. Mix it together so that the water is saturating all of your flour. And then you're going to need to let this sit for an hour before you start manipulating it to see which hydration does best with your grain.
Is leg a word?
Which one?
Leg.
Leg. Yeah, your leg. You broke your leg.
Yeah.
Don't break your leg. Don't break your leg.
Don't break my leg.
That costs a lot of money when you break your leg.
Yeah.
Plus it's really painful.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm just squeezing off the last of it into here. Keep track. I'll cover this and put a little post-it note with my hydrations on it so I don't lose track of which one is which. When I did my hard red, the 90 was too high of hydration, so it tore. And the 80 and the 85 act very similar, so I went with the higher hydration since they acted almost identical. I felt like that meant my flour could handle up to an 85% hydration.
Mom, is this
That is our memory word, the. The, like the end.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Okay. So wipe all that back into the bowl.
What?
And then we have the 80% here. I did a bunch of research before I bought my mill, and I decided on the mock mill because it gets a finer grind, and the stone mills you can regrind if you want to go even finer.
Mom, is this
Win, yeah.
like when I win?
Like mom's winning the day.
Yeah.
I am testing out my flours instead of skipping this step.
This is this one.
Yeah. Okay, so the 80% takes a little bit more work to get that flour mixed in. Just don't leave any dry flour left, otherwise it will throw off your test.
Good.
So definitely take a second to get this mixed up.
Yes.
And then the flour will absorb all the water in the next hour. That's why you don't want to rush it. Okay, so here we have, I'll label these, I'll cover them and label them. We have 90, 85, and 80. Okay, we are back. It's been 1 hour. So I'm going to take a look at my different doughs and see what I have. Again, I have my 80, 85, and 90% hydration with the hard white. And again, the hydrations you'll want to do, I tried to skip that stage. Okay, and when you skip that stage and you use someone else's recipe, it just doesn't turn out the same. Okay, so I think I need to wet my hands. Oh, excuse me guys. You dancing with stars in the video? Okay, so this is the 80%. This is my sidekicks in the background. So what you're doing is playing with it. You're playing with your dough to see how much stretch it's gonna give you before it tears. You wanna see the max hydration that your dough can handle. So you can see it's stretching out nicely, hasn't ripped on me. This is the 80. So just play around with it. Okay, so now I'm kind of nearing my max. So it starts to rip. It's pretty good though. I got a nice square out of it. Okay, and again, these aren't gonna go to waste. When I'm done with these, I'm just gonna add it to my starter as a feed. Okay, this is the 85. Sarge is in the video. Everyone say hi to Sarge.
Cuddly cute Sarge.
Cuddly cute Sarge. Okay, this is the 85. It's definitely a higher hydration. I can feel just working with it in my hands. The other one, the 80, was quite a bit drier than this. Haven't seen any ripping yet. Shaping nicely. Just be gentle with it. Keep working with it, seeing kind of where its potential lies. This one's looking really good. So what I noticed with my hard red was the same thing. The 80 and the 85 handle very similar. So when you find that the two different hydrations are very similar, oh, this one's really good, then I would go with the higher hydration. Look how big that is. It eased out really nice, and I'm just starting to get my first tears. So that one's really good. I think the 85 for the hard white and my mill. Again, this is specific to your mill and the setting. So with my mock mill, I have it adjusted down to try and mill as fine as possible. If you are doing a coarse milling and you have a different mill, then your hydrations will be very different. So once you figure out your hydration, make sure that you're milling on the same setting. So this is the highest hydration, the 90, so I'm gonna wet my hands again so it doesn't stick. I hope this is helpful. Like I said, I skipped this step and I'm a beginner, and now I'm doing it with all my flour because I found it so helpful. So don't make my mistakes. Okay, here we have the 90%, Easing it out. Oh man, maybe the hard white can handle a 90 versus the red was kind of maxing out. Oh, maybe not. See, I'm starting to get the tears, and this is quite a bit smaller than my 85. Ah, yeah, so this one's harder to work with and it's tearing more easily, so I've just discovered my ceiling, my hydration ceiling on the hard white, which would be 90. So to play it safe with your recipes, you can adjust your sourdough recipes. If someone is giving you a recipe for a 90% hydration, you can adjust it down very easily. The water just needs to be 85% of the flour. So if in the recipe they call for 1,000 grams of flour, I'm just using a really easy number, you would multiply it by 0.85, your 85% hydration, and you would use 850 grams of water. So you can make simple adjustments to everyone's recipes based off of the hydration of that specific wheat berry. So for my hard white, I'm gonna stick with an 85%. My hard red was also an 85%, even though it was a different brand and a different type of wheat. So based off of from what I've read, based off the season and the type, you can end up with different hydrations and your mill. So don't just dive into someone else's recipe, which is what I have been doing and failing at my bread making. Instead, start with the basics, get to know your flour, and again, this isn't going to be wasted. I will just put it in with my starter. It's now the next morning and I baked my 85% dough. You can see I got good rise here. I didn't bother scoring because I wasn't sure what I'd get. I almost got 4 inches of rise, and now I'll show you one of my UFOs that was 90% and how it had very little rise.
So good. Oh,
Is this your favorite one yet?
yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
I can't stop. Too good.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the review.